Hello.
Hey, Brian.
Your music has a way of just making me smile. I was in this zone here, getting all of the controls dialed in, and then
You
suddenly
roll that last major chord and it puts people into a good mood.
it sure does. It sure does. Well, let's kick things off. Our first guest is already here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Intersections. It is a pleasure to have you with us this week and every week. As we always say, this is a community. Before we kick things off, please do share with us where you're tuning in from in the comments. Ask your questions, share your observations. We'll get back to you in the stream. We'll also feature your comments and questions live on air. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump right into the formal introduction so that we can get to our first guest right away. Welcome to Intersections, the weekly conversational jam session that we host that dives deep into the intersections among technology, innovation, culture, and ideas. And I should probably throw out there art. We might have to just start to emphasize the artistry in all of this, because this is a time for innovation, and one of the key pillars of innovation is creativity. And course, you can't think about creativity without artistry, and we all have creativity built within us, and we have to start to exercise that a bit more. So every week we bring diverse personalities and worldviews together in the service of greater understanding and unlearning. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, friend, and also co-founder of Intersections, John Kao, whom The Economist has called Mr. Creativity, and a serial innovator. He's a thought leader, entrepreneur, and advisor. He served at visiting faculty at MIT Media Lab in Stanford. He's taught at Harvard Business School. He has, in fact, many of his students have been guests on our show because they've done really amazing things. That says everything about John. He's also an accomplished pianist, composer, musician. He's a Tony-nominated producer of film and stage. He's also wrote the best-selling book, Jamming: The Art and Discipline of Business Creativity. Make sure to follow John's Forbes column. In fact, he shared with me an article about evoking Anthropology 101 that is worth your time. All of his articles are worth your time. And also make sure you follow him on Twitter and LinkedIn. John, welcome to Intersections.
Brian, my weekly deep dive companion into the wilderness known as innovation. Brian Solis, my erstwhile partner, collaborator, and friend, has been really a figure in the digital domain before digital was recognizable as a field, and has made really meaningful connections between digital and the areas of innovation, social media, marketing, and just the emerging tendrils that come out of that into reputation management, the whole cyber domain, and so forth and so on. So his thought leadership is broad and deep and expressed in many media, including speaking and writing best-selling books and having a massive social media presence. And even with all of that, he has a day job, which is as global evangelist for innovation at Salesforce. So, hey, Brian.
Thank you, John.
I like your comment about artistry, because I've been reflecting recently on what it is that humans will continue to do uniquely well in an era that will increasingly be dominated by technology, specifically AI and data science. As the trade space for occupations, in a sense, shrinks, the question of what humans will still have as their unique providence, even if, technology can improvise jazz and paint pictures and do all of that kind of stuff. The meaning of artistry is really inherently within the domain of being human. So it is an important word, and thank you for reminding us about it.
Well, John, you're a living and breathing example of artistry in motion in all that you do and all that you create. And it's not anything that just has to be limited to the way that we think about artistry traditionally. Like, for example, you and your grand pianos and your all of the amazing music that you've created, including our intro and outro for the show. But the thing that I find that is a wonderful example that you lead is that it comes in through your words. It comes in through the articles that you write and the ideas that you have and how you convey those opportunities for all of us. And I think that's something that even in our own research at Salesforce, in the future of work, if you look this up, it's fantastic. It shows that all of the skills of the future, and corroborated by the World Economic Forum as well, in separate research, even though we call them soft skills, they're really hard human skills that include creativity, which basically fortifies the comment around artistry, and then things like critical thinking and empathy and collaboration and all the things that we didn't really learn in school. So thank you for saying that, John. And it's one of the reasons I look forward to this show every single week. Again, everybody, welcome. We have guests from Portugal, London, India, Texas, Belgium, Colorado. Wow, Barcelona. I miss Barcelona. And what a beautiful place. So speaking of artistry, let's just bring on our first guest, because I'm actually a big fan of his work. And I've met him before COVID, actually, is the last time I spoke to him. On my podcast, WTF, which stands for What's the Future, which is the title of one of my books. And I just wanted to be able to get WTF on a book cover. And that was a fun project. Well, Jay Giroux is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Damon Motorcycles. He's a serial entrepreneur as well, but he's focused his efforts lately on redefining mobility with Damon. It's a safer, smarter, and seamlessly connected motorcycle. And oh man, I have been, since the first time I've followed Jay's work, even before I met him, I wanted to ride one of these motorcycles. And one day, Jay, this is going to have to happen. Jay, welcome to Intersections.
Hello, great to have you on the call here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, Jay, why don't you set the stage for what you've been working on at Damon, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So, well, where do I begin? It actually goes back to 5 years before my first technology startup, where I, for various reasons, concluded that I needed to commit my life personally to getting the world off oil, which put me into a perpetual state of fear for about 5 years while I sold motorbikes, including Harleys, and tried to figure out what the heck that even meant. But eventually that manifested itself as my first automotive startup called Rev Technologies, where we built electric drive pickup trucks and SUVs. And then in 2012, I founded a company called Mojio, which is now one of the largest consumer connected car platforms in the world, with millions of subscribers in 9 countries worldwide. It was a big data play and all about automotive data, of course. And then in 2016, learned that, motorcycling is not just a passion for me and not just a passion for a few people, but it's the dominant form of transportation in the world. And will be for the next 50 years, and somehow has become totally forgotten by the auto industry from a technology or safety or innovation point of view, and is primed for disruption and really needs to be reinvented. So Damon is setting out to do just that, really rethink the entire motorcycling experience to make it as safe as a car, but as convenient as a motorbike that, people in megacities, congested megacities need.
Oh yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I don't know if y'all can see this right here in the center, 360 awareness. This right here is a big deal for me, because there was a time, for all those who don't know, I am an avid motorcycle rider. I did take a break for a while because as a father of 2 young girls, I motorcycling is it's becoming a contact sport, unfortunately, where you have so many drivers out there distracted as they're driving, and just the defense mechanisms needed to ride slowly started to strip away the fun and also the safety of what I was riding. And then there was a period there where I got an opportunity to work with Scully Systems, which made intelligent helmets, and so that helped me bring to life the riding fun again. I started designing bikes and Harleys and customizing all of these things, and then I was introduced, Jay, to your work, and you really brought out the little kid in me again, that kid that hadn't yet gotten his first motorcycle and really thought about the endless possibilities, of writing something that basically is game changing, like what you've created here. So Jay, take us on the story, because you've been working on this for a while now, and I got to imagine that you've learned so many things. And before you do that, I want to set the stage here too. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jay, on, so like motorcyclists like me, when Harley debuted Livewire, is very excited. I haven't looked at the numbers to see how its electric motorcycle is doing, but there was clamoring in the the industry, of course. Well, it's not a pure motorcycle, and you have the gearheads that want to burn oil. But since we last spoke, there has been an explosion all around the world in e-bikes, and e-bikes aren't just the assisted pedaling bikes that we see everywhere. A lot of these now are starting to come with a throttle, and introducing the idea of e-mobility to an entirely new generation of potential e-motorcycle enthusiasts. So I'd love to hear sort of how you see this evolving, and then the state of Damon.
Yeah, man, I can take that in so many directions. I'm going to where to begin. That's okay. I'll separate e-bikes from motorcycles with a defining factor. Because the e-bike, the pedal-assisted e-bike, the throttle-assisted e-bike, the things that are allowed in city streets that are not highway capable, that are allowed on bicycle lanes, that could be a scooter, a moped, an e-bike, a pedal-assisted bike, but they're all not highway capable. So we're going to put that in one bucket, things that are not highway capable. And the majority of trips worldwide are conducted on city and highway streets. Therefore, transportation of the human mobility from a commute perspective really needs highway capability. Whereas like using an e-bike to pick up a grocery, run to the liquor store, or visit a friend or get lunch at work is not necessarily part of your A to B and B to A commute. So Damon is focused on a category we call light EVs. And a light EV is everything that's highway capable, bigger than a scooter, but smaller than a car. Worldwide, that's 94 million vehicles sold annually. More or less, we're going to call those motorcycles as we know them today. But a motorcycle is a gas engine, typically carbureted, typically 2 or 3 wheels, and really stuck in the 20th century. Motorcycles, as we know them, as Damon will evolve them into 2 and 3 wheel vehicles capable of highway speeds, and infinitely safer than anything we see on the world right now, with our 360-degree collision warning system, a novel powertrain platform that can be manifested as any kind of motorcycle we want, from 100cc equivalent all the way up to superbike equivalents. Actually, we're starting there because it's easier to scale these powertrains down than it is to scale them up by a long shot. And we're here to solve the forgotten sector of transportation for 2 and 3 wheelers.
Wow. I mean, and they're just gorgeous. Speaking of artistry, they're just beautiful. So let's talk about, look at these specs. And for those who still have battery anxiety, we're talking about 200 plus mile range. We're talking about 200 miles an hour. Oh my gosh. This is a mode of transportation. It's not something that we're going to have to sacrifice or compromise in terms of transportation. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in the industry, or what are some of the opportunities that you didn't see as you started this that are starting to unfold?
I think the challenge, I really appreciate you mentioning that. The challenge is enormous, but the industry challenge for new entrants is getting the specs right, getting the ingredients right beyond the specs. The features and timing, market timing. If you don't get those 3 things right, you're not going to attract a customer base. And going back to your mention of Harley, who has not attracted a customer base for their electric motorcycle, they didn't get the specs right. 100 miles of range, but realistically 70, if you watch all the YouTube videos, is really not enough. Our argument, first of all, on range is that you need to go twice as far as a comparable gas motorcycle. A comparable gas motorcycle has 80 to 100 miles of range before you need to fill it up. But gas stations are everywhere. Electric charging stations aren't. So we knew we needed to double the range. The performance, the acceleration, the top speed, this is about one thing only. This is about being better than the past. If you're not better than the past, you're not going to get people trading in their top-of-the-line Ducati for your Damon Hypersport. The future of anything has to be better than the past. And that means every conceivable metric, from range to acceleration to top speed, safety, usability, convenience. And as you scroll down to this, that's what a bike that transforms at the push of a button is all about. That's what a digital rear view mirror that shows you everything behind you, that's what that's all about. That's an ease of use and increased peripheral awareness. That's what our collision warning system is all about, and one that learns so that every mile you ride on your Damon Hypersport makes me safer on mine. That's the future. I mean, my phones are constantly getting smarter because of the way people use phones. And why should our bikes and our cars not be like that as well?
100%. Jay, I feel like I could consume all of your time, and I know I could. John, I want to make sure that you get some time here with Jay as well. And then if we have any time left over, I have a million more questions. Hey, but Jay, before we get just two quick ones that are coming from the comments here. How much does it weigh?
It weighs 440 pounds.
Oh gosh.
Just par with a gas-filled super bike.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, great. And then when are these available?
Well, we've been taking pre-orders for about a year now, and we're getting anywhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 pre-orders a day, credit card backed orders. So we're sold out until 2023. We're starting production in late 2022. Right now, 2023 production is already about half sold out. So we're seeing in the neighborhood of 3 million in pre-orders a day, and shipping starts next year.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. We're about to hit the 1,400 unit mark on pre-orders.
Congratulations. All right. Well, John, over to you.
So I'm one of these people that has an opinion about motorcycles in that all of my friends who've been motorcycle riders have had accidents, and
Totally.
I have never driven one. And at this point, unless the outcome of this conversation is different, would probably not voluntarily ride one. And part of it is based on the perception of safety, and also that unlike driving a car where you've got to do driver's ed and take a test, demonstration of proficiency is kind of anyone's guess.
Right.
And I live in San Francisco, where there are a lot of crazy people, and we have a lot of crazy drivers as well. Having come from Boston, where the drivers are even more crazy. So if I were kind of like your modal kind of Neanderthal, not necessarily customer, what would you say to me?
I love it. So many things. First of all, you're not alone. There was a day, and I was actually evaluating rebooting Scully in the summer of 2016, right before I flew to Jakarta for a friend's wedding. There was a day I was wearing the Scully helmet. I had a lot of free time in this summer. It was weird. And I was dodging cars as usual. You're getting cut off 4 times a ride, no question. That's just the nature of riding a motorbike among cars. And I thought, this is insane. Like, there's a saying in the motorcycle world, which is, it's not if, it's when. And I said, well, if it's not when, if it's when, then it's actually how bad. And I have a broken humerus bone. There's a chip in there. I've crashed. It's given me arthritis in a shoulder. So the question is not really if you have an accident, it's how bad your accident is. And we all have horror stories. So I started to look into the safety problem. Motorcycling is 27 times more dangerous than driving a car, and you're 5 times more likely to be killed worldwide. And that's unacceptable to me. So how do we make a system that flips the paradigm upside down, where it's not a matter of more miles increases probability of an accident, because that's what it is today, but more miles increases safety? Well, you have to build a bike with a 360-degree collision warning system. It has to be able to learn from the rider, learn from its environment, and learn from the bike. And then the team in the background have to use AI to develop new software algorithms that get sent over the air down to the motorcycle, so that the more you ride, the safer we all become. That is the opposite paradigm. And paradigms are a very, very important psychology. Your paradigm creates your reality. The reality that we're moving into in the world because of Damon will be one where the more we ride a motorbike, the safer everyone becomes. And we're going to leave the other paradigm in the past. And so when I went off to Jakarta, Indonesia, that literally a week later from this thought, there I was surrounded by 22 million other motorcyclists from the ages of 8 to 90 years old who have zero fear about riding a motorbike.
Right.
Why is that? Well, that's because it's the water they swim in. They don't know any other water. But if you peel away the layers and you find out that accidents cost these countries 3% of their GDP, injuries from accidents. It's a global health crisis, and it's one that Damon has to solve. And we're not going to solve it with a collision warning system. We're going to solve it by advancing the form factor and advancing the technology to a state where a motorcycle can avoid an accident for you if you don't take the right corrective action in time. So we've got a roadmap for that, and it's going to take us about 10 years.
Sorry.
But our goal is to have, zero crash fatalities on a bike by 2030 on a Damon bike. And it's hugely ambitious, but I can't think of anything better to work on. So.
Well, it's so interesting what you're saying on a couple of levels. One is there is almost like the public health aspect of jumping into the motorcycle category at this moment in time when it has so many obvious issues, which is fascinating. And then the other thing, which I'd like to ask you a little bit more about, is the whole kind of data science aspect of this, because I assume, backstage that part of your secret sauce is the ability to accumulate massive amounts of data, just like Tesla's advantage is data. And you're very good at one-liners. The more I know, I rarely write one-liners down from our guests, but you said the more you ride, the safer we will all be. That's very cool. Your paradigm creates your reality. I love that. Be better than the past. So I guess first of all, as a sidebar, when I need a catch line, I'm going to call you. But
Sure.
But what I'm hearing is that the evolutionary path of the daemon is that, and maybe you might want to unpack the name, because I'm suspecting there's a little bit of a story there as well, is that, you're heading for what people have called centaur intelligence or hybrid intelligence, where there's a collaboration. Yeah. So it's like, I'm imagining that, 10 years from now, your version 5.0 is going to be taking all kinds of corrective action on your behalf, learning from you,
if you don't take the right corrective action in time. Nobody wants a motorbike that rides for you. So only in critical avoidance moments. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it'll be talking to you. It'll be interacting with you in ways that, we could imagine as an embodied intelligence that is also, taking you somewhere. And I'm just wondering what your kind of, AI data science backstage thinking is in terms of your design philosophy. And also, is Damon D-A-E-M-O-N? No,
I never knew what that meant, D-A-E-M-O-N, but Damon is my legal first name. I'm known by my
okay. All right.
My mom called me Damon.
Because in I think it's in Hellenic mythology, a daemon is like a spirit that interacts with you, which is kind of like your internal muse or creative force. D-A-E-M-O-N.
I like that. We can run up.
Yeah. But you said a bike that learns from you, and big data play. So what's backstage?
Yeah. So simply put, self-driving a car or the self-driving technology to operate a car on your behalf is enormously complicated, and we all know a lot about that these days. Take away two wheels, and it gets a little harder. So the big data play is about understanding the rider, understanding the environment that the rider is dealing with, the real-time environment. How many lanes are on the road? Is the line yellow or white? Is there a pedestrian right here? What's the light color of the traffic light? Is it wet or dry? What time of day is it? Is the sunlight hitting the face of the camera so it can't see in front? That's the real-time environment. And then thirdly, the understanding the vehicle dynamics in any given moment. What's the lean angle? How fast is it going? Is that a right turn into a parking lane, or is that a right turn into a safe lane? So on and so on. And without understanding those three things incredibly intimately, the system would not be able to make real-time corrective decisions. So, we have to collect rider data. Where's my body weight? Am I pushing the steering handlebar to the left or right? Where's my head facing in order to understand rider intent? Then we have to understand, is the road wet or dry? We do that with beamforming microphones to listen to the surface of tires on the road, one of our patents. And then we have to understand the situation of the traffic and the traffic environment in real time. And we're gonna have to collect data from thousands of bikes passing through thousands of intersections over, a handful of years before we can increase the probability of accident detection to move to accident prediction and eventually to start taking corrective action. And again, only in critical moments. In nearly half of all motorcycle accidents, riders have found that they took no evasive action before the impact occurred, which means they may have seen the impact about to occur, but they didn't have enough warning time. So we know, this is about taking that corrective action when the rider can't.
So the bikes are going to be phoning home with the data. I mean, they're going to be communicating with your central hub in some way.
Eventually. Right now, I'll just be collecting data. Like we have a terabyte of data of data storage on every bike, and it will be pushed over the backhaul over the homeowner's Wi-Fi. Completely anonymous data. We're not interested in the rider's personal information, of course. Right. But ultimately, being able to use that to understand, every time my handlebars vibrate, that's a forward collision warning. And the bike records that the handlebars vibrated. Now, if the rider does this, we know that we know that the bike correctly interpreted that forward collision warning because the rider took an evasive action. That's a moment in time, 15 seconds before and after, that we want to collect and push to the cloud and disseminate to understand what happened and why did that near accident occur, and what worked and what didn't work about the evasive maneuver. And that's going to train the bike eventually to do that for the rider when needed.
So I got one more for you. So in the urban environment, this is obviously potentially a game changer in many respects. If I'm driving a car from my home, I emerge from my garage, I drive somewhere, and then I park in another garage, or I park in a place that's a relatively, hopefully a relatively supervised destination. But if I'm riding a motorcycle, presumably I can exit my garage. But let's say, as you said, if I'm going to get groceries or I'm going to, visit a friend, I'm going to be leaving my valuable, shiny, attractive device out in the middle of nowhere. And in San Francisco, we have a big windshield repair industry because, there's a lot of car theft. I can only imagine what's going to happen with motorcycles. So what's the sociology of managing the destination environment of the motorcycle? If I'm going to work, I can't stick it in the hallway of my office.
People park their motorbikes on the side of the road all day, and San Francisco has these wonderful extended areas where dedicated motorcycle parking, and people leave them outside all the time. And gas motorcycles can be picked up by a few people and put into a van to be stolen really easily, and certainly that happens all the time. Electric motorcycles, we have a novel parking pin that actually locks the rear tire from rolling, and of course it's GPS trackable on your phone. And so, and people rarely actually steal bikes by putting them in a van. Usually they break the steering and they ride away. You have to be very, very good rider to take a 200 horsepower bike confidently that you're going to steal. So, and of course, the GPS tracking, I think it's kind of a non-issue.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you. And back to you, Brian, for any concluding remarks. But congratulations. I'm going to be happy to monitor your progress. Sounds really
Thank you. I want to mention, as a non-rider yourself, John, and 12% of our people ordering Damon bikes today are non-riders, or they gave up on riding because of the safety issue, one way or another. They got married, had kids, and had to quit riding because of the safety concerns. And so we're expanding the market of attraction into Damon because of the problem solving that we're doing around safety. This is something that no one's going to go to Honda who never rode before when they're concerned about safety. So Damon does open up the market to a wider audience, which is very exciting.
I'll keep that in mind.
It sure does. It sure does. And I think, and as we alluded to earlier, this whole new generation of consumers who are being introduced to e-bikes with a throttle or throttle assist, it's not a big leap, to go into the e-motorcycle category. And I've got my eyes on that one right there, that black one. That is gorgeous.
It went to sleep. I had it turned on, and now it's gone to sleep here. So let me see if I can refresh it for you guys.
Oh yeah. Look, I got to tell you, I did get back into riding recently because after 10 years of searching, I finally found a Ducati Sport Classic 1000, made famous in Tron. However, this is the next motorcycle right here. Look at this.
Yeah, so there's the collision warning bar. So you have a blind spot warning on the left and a blind spot warning on the right, a forward collision warning here. The handlebars vibrate, embedded cameras and radar in the back. So there's a 140 degree wide angle, 1080p camera there, 2 long range, 72 gigahertz radars, one in the front as well with a camera. And of course the high power motor there. That's just a little twist of the throttle. Yeah, the gold motor cover.
Oh, gorgeous!
Got some more consumer friendly bikes coming next.
Do you have? Oh man, we're gonna have to bring you back. We didn't get into a whole new line of motorcycles. This one I've been drooling over for the last couple of years, and now there's another one coming. Hey, Jay, is it possible to convert the bike's stance while it's stationary?
Yeah. I'll do that on this one right now since it's on its side stand already. This is one of the older prototypes. Let me just straighten out the handlebars a bit. So it's in a high position right now, and I'm going to bring the handlebars down as well as the foot pegs will come up. Oh, no, it's going up. My apologies.
That's nice. That could be used for, what do you think? Like, so how do you market it for more city riding?
Exactly. So, you ride in the upright position for, tight traffic, which makes steering very easy. But when you get up onto the highway, you're going San Francisco to San Jose, and your whole body is buffeting the wind. It gets exhausting. And so that's when you want to, convert it back down into the sport bike position that it's in now. So it really is two bikes in one. It's ideal for the city and ideal for the highway, where today's motorcycles are good at one thing and terrible at the other.
Man, this is fantastic. My brother-in-law is watching, and he's a Harley rider, and we've gone riding together all around, including Lake Tahoe recently. And he's, I think Dale, I think one of the things that you can appreciate about this motorcycle, as you saw, has cameras and radar to provide an early warning system to help drivers, even when those drivers can't see us riders out there. Justice is asking about price points. Are you able to say what the estimated price points are going to be?
Yeah, so they range from 17 to 40,000. The Hypersport comes in 4 models. I'm going to show you behind the curtain here.
Oh, very cool. Hey guys,
what's going on the next one? Yeah, so we're working on aerodynamics right now. We need to increase the aerodynamic slipperiness of the bike. But yeah, it ranges from 17 to 40K, from a 100-mile version to a 200-mile version, depending on your budget and needs.
Yeah.
About par with a gas motorcycle.
I love David Gonzalez's. Here we go. It's the next Tron bike. Yeah. Hey, we're gonna have Jay. Let's see what we could do to get you in. I heard there's rumors of a new Tron movie in the works. So.
There we go. That's cool. Yeah, we should get a Damon in there.
Yes, sir. If you're watching Disney, here you go. Jay, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fantastic to catch up with you, and I understand we're going to be seeing each other here soon, maybe in the fall. So I look forward to that.
I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Right. Thank you. Congratulations. Oh man, my heart's beating so fast. That is so cool. I'm geeking out. Well, John, I think we went a little over, and our next guest is backstage. Do you want to set the stage?
Absolutely. So Greg Malpass is the founder and CEO of a very interesting company called Traction on Demand, which was launched in 2006. And I, rather than try to explain what their business model is, I think the heart of our conversation is going to be that conversation. But I was very intrigued to notice when I looked at his LinkedIn profile that unlike many of us that would trumpet our various academic credentials, he is a serial graduate of the School of Hard Knocks, or as we musicians like to call it, the College of Musical Knowledge, which is basically getting out there and playing your instrument. So he's been a serial entrepreneur. He's successfully incubated and started a number of SaaS-based product companies. It's alphabet soup here. So again, and a lot of it is Traction branded. So I'm assuming it's part of a family of items, and is someone who apparently is very good at scaling businesses, which is something else that I'd like to find out a little bit more about. So with that somewhat pointillistic introduction, Greg, it's great to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, for those of us that are not super familiar with the Salesforce ecosystem, if I can call it that, or with the ecosystem of which Salesforce is a big dog, or the big dog. Tell us a little bit about Traction on Demand's business model in relation to Salesforce, because there's a kind of a symbiotic relationship there, which must be good for both. And then we'll get into issues of the kind of history of the company, because I think started off in one place in terms of thinking you were solving some problems at a kind of a boutique level, and now the thing has become enormous. But let's start with Salesforce, because I'm not sure that everybody out there fully appreciates what the Salesforce model is, and the fact that there are these kind of symbiotic, or I guess to be more precise in biology terms, commensal relationships where each side is benefiting from the relationship.
Absolutely. So the relationship with Salesforce, I guess I'll start with just explaining a little bit of what Salesforce is. Salesforce.com was originally a CRM, so a solution built for companies to keep track of their customers. It's evolved. so much in the last, since I started doing this. It's really now a software platform all in the cloud for operating a business. So keeping track of everything, keeping track of your people, keeping track of your customers, keeping track of the resources you have. And it's grown to be actually the largest CRM now in the world. They're about to surpass, or I think they're almost have surpassed SAP, which was, of course, just a behemoth, a massive organization. And the relationship that we have with them is, well, there's all this amazing technology, but how do you use it? And how do you get it working in your business? And not only that, how do you make sure you build enough capacity in your own company so you can operate it with your internal teams? And that's what we do. So we help customers, organizations that are purchasing Salesforce, get it up and running. And then we also go back to customers that have had it for a while and help them actually really get the whole value of the system. Because, in this world of SaaS, software as a service, the software providers are continuously challenged to provide more capability to their customers so they can keep charging that rental. And so we're kind of the ones that try to connect the dots.
Well, I see that. And I guess my question is, what do you do that Salesforce couldn't do for itself? Why isn't Salesforce trying to accomplish complete vertical integration as opposed to having you be, in a sense, the front end of the customer relationship, and they are the kind of the providers in some respects?
Yeah, there's, and this is actually a little bit of a battle that I always have kind of in terms of even what Traction does, but there's kind of almost two personas when it comes to technology. There's building the software. So people that are really thinking ahead of what the world might need and how the world can fit into the box that they're generating. Then you have the services folks. And the services mindset is much more about, well, how can we, contort this thing to be able to accomplish what the customer wants? Because customers want to operate their businesses differently. They don't want to fit in that exact assignment. They want to deem competitive advantage. So they want to put in what's special, kind of their special secret sauce into this technology so they can win. And so that's where the difference is. Basically, if everybody had the exact same implementation of Salesforce, chances are everyone's businesses would perform the same, which isn't really kind of counters commercial success.
So you're in the differentiation business. Salesforce is almost, I don't want to say commodity because that sounds like a downgrade, but they provide a suite of products and you provide the differentiated strategy, let's call it, for
sure. But John, the funny thing is, as you alluded to in your intro, I can't help myself if I see opportunities in the middle. So along the way, there's just been some things that Salesforce doesn't do and we think it should do. And so we've actually launched software companies to fill those gaps. Mm-hmm. So there have been some cases where, look, the pattern is showing enough. We understand software enough. So let's see if we can solve it for these customers. And so we have launched 5 software companies off the back of Traction on Demand over the course of the last 4 years.
So how does that work? I mean, are these separate corporate entities? Are you affiliated or related? I mean, are you like a fleet of related companies? I mean, you're obviously the glue that holds it together in some respects, but it's kind of interesting. You're creating this kind of mini ecosystem in a way based on your business vision, right?
Yeah, to some extent, it's certainly again, I wouldn't say it was a finite vision at the beginning. It's
that you figured it all out in advance.
Yeah. But what we've done is we kind of have Traction Ventures, and then Traction Ventures has Traction on Demand, and then we actually have the software companies. The one thing we learned very early is as you're launching software companies, you need to give them the opportunity to succeed or fail without the impingement of the services business. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of cases, services companies have tried to launch software before. Where they hit difficult times is, well, what if we get too busy on the services side? Well, let's borrow from the product teams. Let's try some resources across, and that's where the discipline has to be applied. So we really try to protect the software companies and give them the opportunity to succeed. And how that's actually starting to form is once they hit a certain recurring revenue rate, we actually allow external ownership to invest in them. And so they actually work with a different push.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I would imagine that there are certain kind of let's call them business hygiene or conflict issues that would need to be addressed especially once you get third-party investors in. I mean, they're easily managed, but they have to be acknowledged, and you want to preserve that sense that you're related companies in terms of purpose. But on the other hand, if a company in pure capitalist calculus sees an opportunity that's outside the ecosystem, that external director is going to say, hey, I mean, it's shareholder value, so go over there. And there could be some tugs here and there, right?
There's for sure some inherent challenges. The big thing we're always trying to keep a focus on too is stakeholder, not just shareholder. Which is, and the truth is, launching these software companies, it's not just my mind's eye. It's we have great people, and they're evolving in their careers, and they might have a tremendous passion to pursue something. And so what we do is we actually kind of create the opportunity for an entrepreneur to become an entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like to create a CEO. And the one thing I'm really proud of is we're creating these opportunities for people to realize their potential without those first couple of years of starting a business. Like, where do you begin? I think it's a total, it's luck. It really is just, it's a bit of a magical stew that nobody knows how to figure out. And I think what we've done is we've actually created kind of a really safe incubator. Right? We have hundreds of active customers, thousands we've worked with over the years, and they, we can go and test and experiment in partnership with them to figure out what's going to work. So we've de-risked creating companies.
Yeah, you have a real data advantage, among other things, right? And a real customer insight advantage as well. And to what extent, I guess I'm curious, you have so much capability to actually lead the market around domain-specific applications. I noticed there was some discussion of education on the website and some others. And to what extent are you willing, or have you invested in leading the market in certain sectors, right? So you've talked about creating middleware, or, kind of the middle layer. But how about saying, we want to go out and there is something broken in education that we think we can fix, or in healthcare, or in civics, or whatever.
So what we've learned is, normally when you sit in front of a venture capitalist, let's say it's pure software play, you're starting a company, you're sitting in front of a venture capitalist, you're saying, okay, look, everybody, the big questions are, how big is the TAM? What's the competitive set? How quickly can you get to scale? Where's the virility in your strategy? But if you take a step back and look at what we're doing, what we're saying is, well, why do we have to go for a massive addressable market? Why don't we go for a small, super niche market where we can come in with a highly specialized offering that's so different that we can actually own the whole market? So I'd rather own 100% of something small than 0 or 0.2% of something massive. And so a great example is one of our software companies is called Traction Rec. And Traction Rec originally went out with a solution to help JCCs and YMCAs with a single consolidated platform to run their operations. So running their fitness center, their education centers, their facilities, their daycare, their camp, like crazy complicated organizations, actually. And so we came up with something so broad. We built it all on top of Salesforce. So Salesforce sells their licenses, then we sell our Traction Rec licenses on top of those. So Salesforce is happy because we're opening up a market that they didn't have access to before with a highly differentiated product. And we're able to basically roll very rapidly and grow these companies, extraordinarily quickly. And so that's been a big learning actually for me, because we have gone after the other side, which is massive TAM. Everybody could use this. Boy, where do you start? And right off the get-go, you have to dilute yourself so significantly that the shareholder perspective is more powerful than the stakeholder perspective. So companies can really quickly lose sight of who they're really serving.
Yeah, and then you have the problem of marketing and sales and positioning and competing and kind of managing a market as opposed to just deciding that you're going to have a market. Which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the other advantage, of course, is the existing customers. So services is the lion's share of the kind of, let's say, the revenue mix, And I see the one thing I would say on that, the pursuit of the services business, what we're starting to do is we built a new platform that we call Enabled that allows us to actually catalog all the things people are asking us to do and figure out if we've solved it before, and then actually provide the technology at a lower cost to those customers as a result. And so that's
really interesting.
So that's kind of that is I would say it's the area where I see actually the largest opportunity, because we can actually provide automation in terms of problem solving.
And I'm sorry, so how are you acquiring these customer needs? Is it just through clinical experience, or are you
no catalog, business requirements, and then we have we use an AI driven search engine to associate requirements to previously solved problems, so to IP. And now
it's just ingesting public
no, ingesting off of all of our projects. So all of our team working with customers, trying to figure out what they're doing, what problems they're trying to solve. I think the one thing as an entrepreneur, I just hate solving the same problem twice. I'd like to solve it once and then basically set it and forget it. I think that's I really tried to bring a little bit more of that mindset into the services world.
Sure, that's really Greg, I could talk to you all day, but I know that Brian is there champing at the bit. So, hats off to you for figuring some very important stuff out. I guess that School of Hard Knocks must be a really good place to study.
Yeah, well, it's one of those places you never graduate either.
You can always go back. Right. Okay, Brian, over to you.
Hey, Greg, thank you for joining us on the show. And also thank you I had the opportunity to present at your last event, I think it was in March, on the future of service. And John, I don't know if you remember, but that was the keynote that I gave in front of your grand pianos while I was at your house.
Yeah, right.
We transformed his studio into a keynote stage, Greg. So I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that we're doing at Salesforce is we're really reimagining work, the future of work, for a work from anywhere world. And even though there are some companies that are going to do their darndest to get back to the old normal, some of us realize that there's a new normal that we have the ability to shape. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you are helping businesses get back to work in this hybrid world.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a little bit of actually the conversation is all, well, as you should hope, they're fairly consistent in terms of what we were just talking with John. But as we started kind of rounding the corner on COVID, I think the real question that started rising was, what made sense that doesn't make sense anymore? What have we learned? And, being the person I am, I can't help but always try to find, is there a model that we can disrupt? Is there something, can we take the nexus that we're generating and can we actually apply it more meaningfully? And the one thing that we've stumbled upon is the fact that there's actually a lot of space out there, a lot of great space that's not always occupied. It's not always active. And so rather than, a lot of our people are in Vancouver. Vancouver has got a tremendous housing crisis. We're seeing housing crises everywhere. We're seeing companies try to, consolidate, take more space than ever, which also just has further influence on where people live and how expensive it is. So we took a step back and said, well, what if we took the nexus of our space and we brought work closer to our people? How could we make every coffee shop a place where Attraction Night could go? And so we started talking to local businesses. We talked to Legions, which is in Canada, it's the equivalent of your veterans halls in the US. We talked to coffee shops. We talked to little microbreweries, small business owners, and said, hey, look, is there a time where you're not using your space and we could rent it from you? And in the case of the Legions, the conversation is maybe what we could do is improve your halls, because rather than even just simply renting them. And so the idea that we have and kind of the concept around space is I'd like anybody that works for Traction to be able to walk to work. And so the idea is essentially having these shops, which would be in partnerships with local businesses, where we're offsetting a portion of their lease. We need a secure space. So we do need a quiet place that we can work. Maybe it's in the back, maybe it's in the mezzanine, maybe it's a certain area of that they can kind of close off. They can continue to operate their business while we're there as a storefront. I know it's typically not that busy. And then we can also even take the nexus of the 1,200 people at Work Attraction, and we can be customers of theirs. Most of us drink coffee. Some of us drink beer. Lots of us, we're talking to a bicycle shop. And what we're also learning, and this is even more kind of really early stage stuff, is we're learning that people like to work different hours than we originally thought. They don't want to work 8 to 5. So, and maybe they want to work 3 hours, have 3 hours off, work 3 hours, kind of spread a little bit more. So we're starting to really explore those models. And of course, we're using Salesforce technology to be able to kind of manage that.
Wow, this is a fascinating turn here in terms of the conversation and the future of work. As you know, Greg, and for those who don't, during COVID, Salesforce introduced Work.com, which was a new solution to really help companies not only get back to work but reimagine what work could mean moving forward. And as you described, Greg, it's place, it's space, it's hours, it's days, and also an incredible focus on employee experience and employee wellness, because these times are without a playbook and without training, and human resources is having to adapt into how to help employees and also prospects thrive in it's the only word I can use, in unprecedented times. So, Greg, what are some of the things that we're going to run out of time here. I have so many questions. What are some of the things that you can offer for business owners of every size, SMBs, enterprise executives, those who are not necessarily sure how to think about the future of work, when they only know work is a certain way, many of these veteran, executives. What advice do you have for them to think differently, and how can you help them think differently? And let's see if we can figure it out together.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think the first thing we can do is we can share how we're trying to solicit interest from local community and encourage them to do the same. Truthfully, there's lots of great small business owners there, and they would probably appreciate the opportunity to integrate with your company at some level. And we just got to build trust with them. And I'm happy to share how we're soliciting and trying to do just that. The other thing is, we do, of course, we have some software. We have Traction Guest, which is a visitor management software platform that, actually everyone that walks in any door at Salesforce, they're actually using that platform. And so there's certainly some technology that we could provide there. The other thing is we're going to continue to put out playbooks in terms of the future of work. Traction is a B Corp. We've always kind of recognize the fact that the more we can share to the community in terms of how we're executing and running our business, the more hopefully the community can reflect back to how they consume that, and we can even better ourselves as a result of that. So I think it's just more of just an open gesture sharing that I'd love to kind of put out there, as opposed to solicitation. And the reason is, you're right, we're in unprecedented times, but we have a chance to change things and make them good, gooder than ever before. And I think it's crazy. Some of the things that we've done in the past are crazy. I was one of the CEOs that was very insistent on making sure everyone came to the office. We were all there together. I thought that was where creativity spawned. What we've learned is people need time alone, and then they need to know who's going to be where, so they can actually find the right recipe for their creativity. Mm-hmm. We've also learned, after 100 people in a space, it's almost overwhelming. You almost become more recluse. But if you're in a space around 40 people, you can actually feel the pulse and energy, and you can actually pay enough attention to those around you that you can help them. And so those are the things I think that really are going to help inspire creativity in everyone's businesses. And creativity creates speed and agility.
John, I was just thinking of your comment to Jay earlier about how he had some great one-liners, and Greg, you are also very well versed in summarizing some great points into things I was trying to keep up with, trying to live tweet what you were saying, and no. I'm gonna have to follow up on those tweets. But Greg, I was wondering where on the website could we find resources about the future of work. I'm looking here. Maybe you could send it to us. It's tractionondemand.com for those who are watching live. But ultimately, these playbooks that you have are so well done and so approachable. And I'd really love to make sure that I share and John shares what you're doing to help people get back to work. And I will share those on social. So if someone can follow up, that would be great, Greg.
Yeah, you got it. And also, if there are any kind of groupings of questions that come from your listeners and your audience, and we're happy to put one together just for you too. So we are.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I was one of those motorcycle riders that gave up my motorcycle when I had children.
So you're the 12%.
And I was, you know, I'm longing for my BMW 1200 GS, but now I think I may have another target.
Oh yeah, you and me both, Greg. You and me both. Maybe I'll see you out on the road. We can organize a Traction on Demand and Salesforce ride.
Done. Love it. Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Greg.
Cheers, Greg. Wow, what a really cool conversation. I think we could have had an entire different show on the future of work and space and hours, and maybe we bring him back as well, because that would be, I think that's a very poignant conversation right now for sure, especially with the Delta and the Lambda variants going on. I mean, you know, I thought we were turning a corner, and I think we're things are interesting.
There are other variants waiting in the wings too, because, you know, our monumental screw up as global civil society is that we've enabled the virus to have a virtually limitless laboratory for innovation. And so,
isn't it incredible?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, and not to point the finger at anyone, but, you know, highly imperfect situation within which the, you know, other variants, even more virulent variants, are, you know, highly likely. So, you know, we're just not even able to think beyond Delta right now, but there's more stuff coming down the road.
Yep, indeed. And the irony of those pushing back against their role in society and becoming essentially hosts of a lab that is allowing for this to fester, right, and ultimately do all the things that they're fighting against. And so with that said, and on that note, John, let's say we send everyone a massive thank you for being part of our community and joining us.
And if I may, so I have something that no one else has, which is this book, which is AI 2041 by Li Kai-Fu. And the reason that you don't have it is because this is an advanced reviewer copy, which I get to review as part of my Forbes column. It's coming out in mid-September. It is 10 vignettes of the future through the lens of AI. So 10 short stories about people's lives that are going to be affected, whether it's education or urban transportation or, you know, autonomy of one kind or another, with commentary by Li Kai-Fu, who's one of the world's biggest brains in AI. And he will be on our show in the mid portion of September to coincide with the release of the book. So I'm just trying to whet your appetite, because Brian and I are engaged in real world stuff here, and that's going to be a great show.
Oh, that's fantastic, John. And this is the show that I think I had to miss because of the odd timing in order to be able to bring him on. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we did this as an interview, and you know, they're in Shanghai, so it was just kind of a nightmare to schedule. But the good news is we're bringing them to you, and I think you'll find it very interesting. His co-author Stanley Chen is ex-Google turned science fiction author. And they have pioneered what they call scientific fiction, right? It's not science fiction anymore. It's scientific fiction, because there's a lot of science. I mean, he's talking about stuff that he believes is virtually inexorable in terms of, you know, likelihood. So
this is fantastic. This is fantastic. You know, the scientific fiction is a really wonderful way to put it. And a lot of my work and also that of Peter Schwartz at Salesforce, you know, when we're asked to look into the future, right? the role of a futurist isn't to predict the future. The role of a futurist is to play out scenarios, likely scenarios, so that you can best plan for them, and build an infrastructure, a mindset, and a workforce or team to be able to thrive in these scenarios. And one of the best solutions to be able to bring people to uncertainty with the confidence needed to move in direction is storytelling. And this idea of scientific fiction, this idea of applying a science fiction like storyline to likelihoods or potential likelihoods for the future is what is going to bring people together in order to be to be ready in ways that we weren't, for example, like the pandemic. And these are all things that are happening today. AI I wrote an article called "Hiring an AI Futurist in the C-Suite." To use technology as a way to help accelerate these types of scenario plannings using data. So with that, and if you want to find it, that's the headline. It's at ZDNet. John, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tune in to next week, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. You can look at past episodes at intersectionslive.com. And I have to find the outro here. All right, here we go. John, always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.